Justice is supposed to be blind, but what happens when the system itself refuses to see the truth? Today we step into the case of Ryan Carter, a young man whose fight for justice will expose more than just a flawed accusation. This is his story. This case isn't just about guilt or innocence. It's about the foundations of justice itself. Ryan Carter stands accused of breaking into a wealthy family's home and stealing valuable artwork. The evidence seems damning: fingerprints, surveillance footage, and witness testimony. But something about this case just doesn't add up.
Mr. Carter, you have been charged with burglary and grand larceny. The prosecution claims to have irrefutable evidence. Do you wish to present a defense?
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the facts in this case are crystal clear. On the night of September 14th, security cameras captured the defendant entering the Maxwell estate at 11:37 p.m. His fingerprints were found on the stolen paintings. An eyewitness saw him fleeing the scene. This is not a case of mistaken identity. This is a case of deliberate crime.
Prosecutor Hayes paints a picture so vivid, so certain, that it seems impossible to dispute. The jury listens attentively. The evidence seems overwhelming, but Ryan Carter knows something they don't.
I didn't steal those paintings, but I can tell you why they want you to think I did.
With those words, the entire courtroom leans in. Because now, this case is no longer just about one man's innocence. It's about the cracks in the very foundation of the justice system.
Let's start with the fingerprint analysis. You claim that my client's fingerprints were found on the stolen paintings. But how many sets of prints were found in total?
There were multiple sets, at least 5 different individuals' prints.
And yet, the only ones presented in court belong to my client. This is the footage the prosecution claims proves my client's guilt. But let's take a closer look at the timestamp. This footage wasn't recorded on September 14th. It was recorded 3 days earlier.
Suddenly, the ironclad case isn't so ironclad anymore.
Mr. Daniels, you testified that you saw my client running from the scene. Can you describe what he was wearing that night?
Dark clothes. A hoodie, I think.
Are you sure? Because my client was wearing a bright red jacket that night, and I have a receipt proving he bought it hours before the alleged crime.
The cracks in the prosecution's case are growing wider by the second.
Given the inconsistencies in the evidence, the unreliable testimony, and the misrepresentation of key facts, I have no choice but to dismiss the charges against Ryan Carter.
I walked into that courtroom an accused criminal. I walked out a free man, but not everyone gets that chance. The system isn't broken, it was built this way, and it's time we change that.
And just like that, the fate of Ryan Carter was sealed. But was justice truly served? Or had an innocent man fallen victim to a system built on doubt and perception rather than absolute truth? The jury had spoken, the judge had ruled, and the world moved on. Yet in the quiet corners of those who truly knew him, a question remained, one that would never fade. As Ryan Carter was led away, his eyes searched the courtroom one last time, hoping for anything that could prove his innocence. But the world had already made up its mind. And what about you? After everything you've heard, do you believe in Ryan's guilt? Or is there still a shadow of doubt lingering in your mind? Because sometimes justice isn't about what's right. It's about what people choose to believe.